Hello and welcome back to another update. I have been now a software QA engineer over half a decade and worked in different industries and environments. Along my journey I have learned quite some things about the job itself, which I didn't know at the beginning. I thought that being a software tester would be a technical job where I would work on my task and go home after everything is done. But little did I know that the reality often looks quite different. That's why in today's video I'll be discussing 7 things I wish I had known when I began my career as a software QA engineer. I share my experiences and insights so you can avoid learning these lessons the hard way. I exactly remember how my testing career began. I had just started as a verification engineer at a medical device company and I was excited for my new role and I couldn't wait to share it with everyone. However, whenever I talked to others about my job, the first question I often heard was, "What does that mean?" Quickly followed by, "What exactly do you do?" So I started simplifying by saying that I test if everything works. Then I also mentioned that I sometimes write code to check other code, which blew their mind. Most of the time the conclusion from them was, "So you're a programmer, got it." I realized that many people, especially those outside of IT, don't really understand what we do. Not everyone immediately recognized the importance of a tester's role. Although more people now realize how important testers are, some still don't understand why QA teams are needed and why every software company should have them. This ongoing need for awareness and education about your job is just a part of the journey in quality assurance, in my opinion. First, I thought being a software QA engineer was about working alone with a laptop, but I soon realized I didn't fully understand how important communication is in this job. Contrary to what I initially thought, the role involves much more than quiet hours at your desk. A significant part of the job is communication, and I'm not just talking about meetings. You'll find yourself frequently reaching out to colleagues to ask specific questions, clarify requirements, and discuss the current state of the software. It's a role that requires as much interaction with people as it does with technology. Your role as a software QA engineer is about identifying errors and bugs, which by definition involves critiquing other people's work. For someone new in the field, this can be daunting, particularly when you need to report bugs to an experienced developer. But effective communication is essential in this role, and you need to be prepared for long discussions about why something might work on someone else's machine or why a bug is being considered a feature. One of the fundamental principles in testing is you cannot test everything. It's practically impossible to test every tiny detail of software and account for every possible state it might be in. So testing in a sense can be seen as a never-ending story. In my early days I was driven to test exhaustively and uncover every bug, only to realize that time and budget constraints make this goal impossible. This taught me to accept that my work might never feel finished. Even post-release I often find myself thinking of additional tests or spotting bugs. When it's important to report these, I've noticed that more often than not, the fixing of these bugs may be ignored until a user raises complaints. So be prepared for the feeling that your work is never truly finished and always ongoing. So you tested everything and found some bugs. The bugs were fixed, and after final check, the new software version was released. Everyone was happy and you received positive feedback from the users. The success leads to praise for the entire development team, but also raises a strange question. Was testing even necessary? If everything worked as expected, people might wonder if QA engineers are needed at all. When there are no problems, people tend to forget that it means that effective testing was done before. The problem is that when you do an excellent job as a QA engineer, that also means that nobody sees all the problems you've mentioned and that were fixed. On the other side, if a bug surfaces in production, the reaction often involves questioning why it wasn't caught during testing. It can be challenging. You might have identified 99 out of 100 bugs, but that one oversight can lead to a big problem. Being prepared for this is very important. A Especially at the beginning of my career, I struggled with the idea of being blamed for something I missed. As you gain experience, you learn to handle it better and justify your testing actions, but it's important to know that this can happen to any testers at some point. Just keep in mind, every software has bugs and errors. When this happens, it's important to own up to the mistake, learn from it, and move forward. When I started as a software QA engineer, I thought I would never have to write a single line of code again. And you don't need to learn how to code as a tester, but it definitely has its benefits. It expands your skill set and mindset, and it deepens your understanding of what you are testing. If you have a basic understanding of code, you can ask more detailed questions to the developer or even have a look at the code yourself. Furthermore, it is a good start for beginning your test automation journey if you want to do this in the future. Check out my video on how to kickstart your test automation journey if you want to learn more about it. When I started working for a project-based company, I assumed that after learning a few projects, my job would become repetitive and I'd just be doing the same tasks on autopilot. I expected each project to be quite similar. However, after being involved in some projects, I've realized that no two projects are the same. Even if you're working on 2 e-commerce projects or 2 applications in the health sector, each one is unique. Some elements might repeat, like an input field or certain features, but every project needs a different mindset. This could be due to working with different people who have different levels of knowledge or different technologies being used. While this diversity can be intimidating at first, I've come to really enjoy it. Each new project brings fresh challenges and lessons, keeping the work engaging and constantly evolving. However, as a beginner in a project-based environment, you should definitely be prepared for a high level of variety. I often talk about the importance of communication, but there's another aspect of it that's crucial for a tester: documentation. Early in my career, I recognized that documentation was important, particularly in highly regulated industries like, for example, the medical device industries. However, I also observed a tendency in other areas to downplay its importance. The ability to produce effective documentation is a very useful skill, and it's a significant part of the role of a tester. Firstly, it is essential for communicating issues like bugs to developers, but perhaps more importantly, it serves as a proof of your work. It should show exactly what you have tested and what the results were. At my old company, a user found a bug, and the testing team was immediately asked why we hadn't caught it during testing. The truth was, we did find it and could prove it with a signed test report. But the bug was ignored by the stakeholders because they decided that no one will ever do this. Okay. This example highlights that writing documentation is a crucial part of the job, and it's something you should keep in mind when starting as a QA engineer. Of course, there are many other aspects of this role that I haven't mentioned, and everyone's experience in the testing world is different. I'd love to hear about your journeys and the lessons you've learned along the way in the comments below. I really enjoy my job every day. The job of a software QA engineer comes with important tasks, which could be overwhelming for some people, but you should enjoy the feeling of being responsible. Your job is to gather information to clarify the quality of the product, which ultimately leads to a better product and a satisfied user in the end. And there is no better feeling than using a good quality software.